The morning sun painted golden streaks across the kitchen window as Mike poured cereal into 2 bowls. Alex sat at the small wooden table, swinging his legs and humming a tune he learned at school. His brown hair stuck up in different directions, and his superhero pajamas were wrinkled from sleep. "Dad, can we get extra cheese on the pizza tonight?" Alex asked, spooning cereal into his mouth. Mike smiled and ruffled his son's messy hair. "Of course, buddy. Extra cheese it is." This had become their Friday tradition. Every week, Mike and Alex would walk downtown to Tony's pizza place for dinner. It was something special they did together, just the two of them. Mike looked forward to these evenings more than Alex knew. 3 years had passed since Lisa left. 3 long years of learning how to be both mother and father to a little boy who still asked when mommy was coming home. Mike had stopped trying to explain it after the first year. Now he simply said that sometimes grown-ups have to go away, and that was enough for Alex. "Hurry up and get dressed, Alex. We need to leave for school in 20 minutes, Mike called from the kitchen as he packed lunch boxes. Alex ran to his bedroom, and Mike heard the sound of drawers opening and closing. The boy had learned to dress himself, brush his teeth, and tie his shoes. Mike was proud of how independent Alex had become, even though he sometimes wished his son could just be a carefree 7-year-old. The drive to school was filled with Alex's chatter about his upcoming spelling test and the new kid in his class named Ben. Mike listened carefully, asking questions and encouraging Alex's excited stories. These car rides were precious moments when Alex shared his world freely. "Dad, will you help me practice spelling tonight after pizza?" Alex asked as they pulled up to the school. "Absolutely. We'll make it fun," Mike promised, watching Alex grab his backpack and lunchbox. "Love you, Dad." Alex called as he ran toward the school entrance. "Love you too, buddy." Mike called back, waiting until Alex disappeared through the doors. The rest of Mike's day passed in the usual routine. He worked at the accounting firm downtown, answering emails and reviewing financial reports. His colleagues were kind and understanding about his situation. When Alex got sick or had school events, they covered for him without complaint. During lunch, Mike sat in the break room and looked at photos of Alex on his phone. There were pictures from last weekend when they went to the park, and others from Alex's school play where he dressed as a tree. Each photo reminded Mike of how much their little family had grown stronger over the years. "You're a good dad, Mike," said Janet, his coworker, as she sat down with her sandwich. "Alex is lucky to have you." Mike appreciated the kind words, though he often wondered if he was enough. Could one parent really give a child everything they needed? He pushed these doubts away and focused on being the best father he could be. The afternoon crawled by slowly. Mike found himself watching the clock, eager for 5 o'clock when he could pick up Alex from after-school care. These were the moments when being a single parent felt hardest. Other kids got picked up by their mothers, or both parents came together. Alex never complained, but Mike noticed how his son watched the other families. Finally, the workday ended. Mike drove to Alex's school and found him playing on the playground with several other children. Alex's face lit up when he saw his father walking toward him. "Dad! Look what I made in art class." Alex ran over holding a colorful drawing of 2 stick figures standing next to a house. "This is amazing, Alex." "Tell me about it," Mike said, kneeling down to Alex's level. "That's you and that's me. We're standing by our house, and we're happy," Alex explained, pointing to each figure. Mike felt his heart squeeze with love and a touch of sadness. The drawing showed their family as Alex saw it, complete and happy with just the two of them. "I love it, buddy. We'll put it on the refrigerator when we get home." They drove home through the busy city streets. Mike pointed out different buildings and told Alex stories about the places they passed. The boy pressed his nose against the window, watching people walk on the sidewalks below. "Dad, why do some people not have homes?" Alex asked suddenly. Mike glanced in the rearview mirror at his son's thoughtful expression. Well, sometimes people have hard times in their lives. They might lose their jobs or get sick and can't pay for a place to live. That's sad, Alex said quietly. I'm glad we have our home. Me too, buddy. We're very lucky, Mike agreed. At home, Alex changed out of his school clothes while Mike reviewed his homework folder. Math worksheets, a reading assignment, and a note from the teacher about the upcoming parent conference. Mike made mental notes about everything, determined to stay involved in every aspect of Alex's education. I'm ready for pizza, Alex announced, appearing in the living room wearing his favorite blue shirt and jeans. Perfect timing. Let's go, Mike said, grabbing his wallet and keys. The walk downtown took about 15 minutes. Mike and Alex strolled along the sidewalk, talking about Alex's day and making plans for the weekend. The city was busy with people heading home from work and others starting their evening activities. Look, Dad. A street musician. Alex pointed to a man playing guitar on the corner. They stopped to listen for a moment. The music was beautiful, and a small crowd had gathered. Mike dropped a few coins into the man's guitar case, and Alex watched with interest. Why does he play music on the street? Alex asked as they continued walking. Some people play music to share their talent and earn a little money, Mike explained. It's another kind of job. Alex nodded thoughtfully. He was always curious about how the world worked, asking questions that sometimes surprised Mike with their depth. As they got closer to Tony's pizza place, the streets became more crowded. Business people in suits rushed past them, teenagers gathered outside shops, and families like theirs walked together toward restaurants. Mike felt grateful for these simple moments. 3 years ago, he thought his world had ended when Lisa left. He had been angry, confused, and terrified about raising Alex alone. But somehow, they had built a good life together. It wasn't the life he had planned, but it was theirs. Dad, race you to the pizza place. Alex suddenly challenged, starting to run ahead. No fair. You got a head start. Mike laughed, jogging after his son. They ran the last block together, both breathing hard and laughing when they reached Tony's pizza place. The familiar red and white sign welcomed them, and through the windows, Mike could see other families enjoying their Friday night dinners. Alex pressed his face against the glass, looking at the other children inside. I see Ben from my class. Can we sit near them? Sure, buddy. Let's go inside and see if there's a table nearby, Mike said, reaching for the door handle. As they approached the entrance, Mike noticed various people on the street. Some were heading to restaurants like them, others were shopping, and a few were sitting along the building walls. The city had a homeless population that Mike had learned to notice but not really see. He focused on his own life and responsibilities, keeping Alex moving forward and not dwelling on things they couldn't control. Near the restaurant entrance, an older woman sat against the brick wall. She held a cardboard sign and looked up hopefully at people passing by. Her clothes were dirty and torn, her hair tangled and unwashed. She appeared thin and tired, like someone who had been living on the streets for a long time. Mike quickly guided Alex toward the restaurant door, not wanting to expose his son to the harsh realities of life that he wasn't ready to understand. He had learned that the best way to handle these situations was to keep moving and focus on their destination. Come on, Alex. Let's get our table, Mike said gently, placing his hand on his son's shoulder. Alex glanced back at the woman briefly but followed his father into the warm, bright restaurant. The smell of fresh pizza and the sound of happy conversation surrounded them as they found a table near the window. Neither Mike nor Alex realized that this ordinary Friday evening was about to change their lives forever. Inside Tony's pizza place, the warm air wrapped around Mike and Alex like a comfortable blanket. The restaurant buzzed with happy conversations and the sound of pizza ovens working hard. Red checkered tablecloths covered small tables, and the walls were decorated with pictures of Italy and old family recipes. Table for two? Asked Maria, the friendly waitress who knew them well. Yes please, Maria. Our usual spot if it's available, Mike replied, smiling at the woman who had served them many Friday dinners. Of course. Right this way, you two, Maria said, leading them to a table near the large front window. Alex climbed into his chair and immediately looked out the window. The street was busy with people walking past, cars driving by, and the usual Friday evening activity of the city. Mike picked up the menu even though he knew it by heart. They always ordered the same thing, a large pizza with extra cheese and pepperoni. Dad, can I get a soda tonight instead of milk? Alex asked, still looking out the window. Sure, buddy. It's Friday night, Mike agreed, happy to make their weekly dinner feel special. Maria returned with their drinks and took their order. Extra cheese pizza coming right up. How was school this week, Alex? Really good. We learned about different countries in geography class. Did you know that some places don't have pizza? Alex asked seriously. Maria laughed. That sounds terrible. Good thing we live in a place with the best pizza in the city. After Maria left, Mike noticed that Alex seemed distracted. His son kept turning to look out the window instead of talking about school or his friends like he usually did. Everything okay, buddy? You seem quiet tonight, Mike said, reaching across the table to touch Alex's hand. Yeah, I'm okay, Alex replied, but he continued staring out the window. Mike followed his son's gaze and saw the homeless woman still sitting against the building wall across the street. She hadn't moved since they arrived. Her cardboard sign was barely visible in the evening light, and she looked cold and tired. Alex, what are you looking at out there? Mike asked gently. Alex pointed toward the woman. That lady over there. She looks sad. Mike felt a familiar protective instinct kick in. He didn't want Alex to feel worried or scared about the homeless population in their city. At 7 years old, Alex was too young to understand the complicated reasons why people ended up living on the streets. Sometimes people have hard times in their lives, remember? But we can't help everyone, so we focus on taking care of ourselves, Mike explained, using the same words he had used before. Alex nodded but kept looking at the woman. Dad, she looks familiar. Familiar how? Mike asked, not really paying attention. He was reading a text message from work on his phone. I think I've seen her before, Alex said quietly. Mike looked up from his phone and smiled at his son. Sometimes strangers can look like people we know. It happens to me too sometimes. I'll see someone at the store and think they're my friend from work, but it's just someone who looks similar. No, Dad. I really think I know her, Alex insisted, his voice becoming more serious. Something in Alex's tone made Mike put down his phone and pay closer attention. His son was staring intensely at the woman across the street, and his small face looked confused and worried. Alex, I'm sure it's just someone who reminds you of somebody else. We see lots of people every day, and sometimes our minds play tricks on us, Mike said, trying to sound reassuring. Alex shook his head. Dad, look at how she sits. She crosses her legs the same way. And look at her hands. Mike glanced out the window at the woman. From their distance, he couldn't see much detail. The woman was sitting with her legs crossed, but lots of people sat that way. Her hands were wrapped around her knees, holding them close to her body. Alex, I think you're imagining things. Lots of people sit the same way, Mike said, though he felt a tiny flutter of worry in his stomach. Their pizza arrived, and Mike hoped the food would distract Alex from whatever he was thinking about the woman outside. Maria set the steaming pizza between them, and the smell of melted cheese and pepperoni filled their small space. Looks delicious as always, Maria. Thank you, Mike said. Enjoy, you too. Maria replied, hurrying off to help other customers. Mike served Alex a slice of pizza, but his son barely touched it. Instead, Alex continued staring out the window with growing intensity. Dad, she has a scar on her right hand. Just like Mommy had, Alex said suddenly. Mike nearly choked on his pizza. What did you say? The lady outside. She has a scar on her right hand, just like Mommy had. From when she cut herself making dinner that one time, Alex explained, his voice becoming excited and worried at the same time. Mike felt his heart start beating faster. Lisa did have a scar on her right hand from a cooking accident years ago. But lots of people had scars on their hands. It was just a coincidence. Alex, buddy, lots of people have scars. Remember when you fell off your bike and got that scar on your knee? Scars are pretty common, Mike said, trying to keep his voice calm. But Alex wasn't listening. He pressed his face against the window, trying to get a better look at the woman. Dad, she's rubbing her forehead the same way Mommy used to when she had headaches. She does it with 3 fingers, not her whole hand. Mike's stomach dropped. Lisa did have a very specific way of rubbing her forehead when she had headaches. She used her middle 3 fingers in small circles, something Mike had noticed during their years together. But surely this was just Alex's imagination playing tricks on him. Alex, you're starting to worry me. I think you're seeing things that aren't really there because you miss Mommy. That's normal, but this lady is not Mommy, Mike said firmly. Dad, please just look carefully, Alex begged. Really look at her. Against his better judgment, Mike turned to stare at the woman across the street. She was too far away to see clearly, and the street lights weren't bright enough to make out details. The woman appeared to be middle-aged, with dark hair that was messy and dirty. Her clothes were torn and too big for her thin body. See? She doesn't look like Mommy at all, Mike said, though his voice sounded less confident than before. Alex's eyes filled with tears. Dad, I know it sounds crazy, but I really think that's Mommy. She looks different, but it's her. I can feel it. Mike felt panic rising in his chest. This couldn't be happening. Lisa had left 3 years ago, and they had no idea where she was or what had happened to her. The idea that she might be homeless and living on the streets near them was impossible to imagine. Alex, listen to me carefully. Mommy left a long time ago. We don't know where she is, but I'm sure she's not living on the street. You're missing her, and that's making you think you see her places where she's not, Mike explained, reaching across the table to hold Alex's hands. Dad, I'm not making it up. Look at the way she keeps touching her ear. Mommy used to do that when she was nervous. And she's left-handed, look how she's holding her sign, Alex said, his voice becoming desperate. Mike looked again, and his blood ran cold. The woman was indeed holding her sign with her left hand, and she did keep touching her ear in a nervous gesture. These were small details that Alex couldn't possibly have imagined. Dad, can we go outside and get closer? Please. Alex asked, tears rolling down his cheeks. Mike's mind raced. Part of him knew that Alex was probably just missing his mother and seeing her in a stranger. But another part of him worried that Alex might be right. What if it really was Lisa? What if she had been living on the streets this whole time, so close to them? Alex, even if that woman looks like Mommy, it's not her. We can't just go up to strangers on the street. It might scare them or make them uncomfortable, Mike said, though his own curiosity was growing stronger. Dad, I know you think I'm being silly, but I promise I'm not. Something in my heart is telling me that's Mommy. Can't we just walk by her when we leave? We don't have to talk to her, just walk close enough so you can see, Alex pleaded. Mike looked at his son's earnest face and felt his resolve weakening. Alex was a smart boy who didn't usually make up stories or imagine things. If he was this convinced that the woman looked familiar, maybe Mike owed it to him to take a closer look. Okay, Alex. When we finish eating, we'll walk past her on our way home. But you have to promise me that if it's not Mommy, you won't be too disappointed. Sometimes our eyes and hearts can trick us when we really want something to be true, Mike said. Alex nodded eagerly. I promise, Dad. Thank you for believing me. They finished their pizza in relative quiet, though neither of them had much appetite. Mike's mind kept wandering to the possibilities. What if Alex was right? What if Lisa had somehow ended up homeless and living on the streets? How would he handle that situation? How would he protect Alex from the shock and pain? "Are you ready to go, buddy?" Mike asked after they had sat quietly for several more minutes. "Yes, Dad. But I'm scared too," Alex admitted. "Scared of what?" Mike asked. "Scared that it really is Mommy, and scared that it's not," Alex said quietly. Mike felt his heart break a little. His 7-year-old son was dealing with emotions that were too big and complicated for someone his age. "Whatever happens, Alex, we'll face it together. You and me, just like always." Mike paid their check and thanked Maria for another wonderful dinner. Then he and Alex walked slowly toward the front door of the restaurant. Mike's hands were shaking slightly as he pushed open the door and stepped onto the sidewalk. "Which way should we walk, Dad?" Alex asked, though they both knew there was only one path that would take them close to the woman. "This way," Mike said, taking Alex's hand and walking toward the corner where the woman sat. As they got closer, Mike could see more details. The woman was thin, much thinner than Lisa had been. Her hair was darker and longer, hanging in tangles around her face. Her clothes were definitely not something Lisa would have worn. "See, Alex? She doesn't look like Mommy at all," Mike said, feeling relieved. But then the woman looked up at them as they approached, and Mike's world stopped spinning. Even through the dirt and changes, even through the weight loss and tired lines around her eyes, Mike recognized the face he had loved for so many years. It was Lisa, and she was staring at them with the same shock and recognition that he felt. "Mike," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex squeezed his father's hand tightly. "I told you, Dad. It's Mommy." The three of them stood frozen on the sidewalk like statues. Mike felt like his whole world had turned upside down in a single moment. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst out of his chest. Alex squeezed his father's hand tighter, looking back and forth between his parents with wide, uncertain eyes. Lisa struggled to stand up, her thin legs shaking as she pushed herself off the cold concrete. The cardboard sign fell from her lap, and Mike could see the words written on it in faded marker, "Anything helps. God bless." She brushed dirt off her torn jeans and tried to smooth down her tangled hair with trembling fingers. "Alex?" Lisa whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. "Is that really you, baby?" Alex took a small step forward, still holding his father's hand. "Hi, Mommy. We were having pizza, and I saw you sitting here." Tears began streaming down Lisa's face, leaving clean tracks through the dirt on her cheeks. She covered her mouth with her scarred right hand, the same scar that Alex had remembered from years ago. "Mike, I know this must be such a shock," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never expected to see you both like this." Mike found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. "Lisa, what happened to you? Where have you been for 3 years?" Lisa looked down at the ground, unable to meet his eyes. "It's a long story. A very long and painful story." "I think we deserve to know that story," Mike said, though his voice was gentler now. He could see how much Lisa had changed, how much she had suffered. Alex tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad, Mommy looks hungry. And cold." Mike looked at his son's innocent, caring face and felt his anger soften a little. Alex was right, Lisa looked like she hadn't had a good meal in months. Her clothes were too thin for the cool evening air, and she was shivering slightly. "There's a coffee shop around the corner," Mike said slowly. "Maybe we could go there and talk." Lisa's eyes filled with hope and fear at the same time. "Are you sure? I understand if you don't want to be seen with me looking like this." "You're still Alex's mother," Mike said simply. "Come on." They walked the 2 blocks to the coffee shop in awkward silence. Alex stayed between his parents, occasionally looking up at Lisa with curious eyes. Lisa kept glancing at Alex like she couldn't believe he was real, that he had grown so much in the 3 years she had been gone. The coffee shop was warm and quiet, with soft jazz music playing in the background. Mike chose a table in the back corner where they could talk privately. He ordered coffee for himself and Lisa, and hot chocolate for Alex. "You got so big," Lisa said to Alex, her voice full of wonder and sadness. "Look at you. You're practically grown up." "I'm 7 now," Alex told her proudly. "I can tie my shoes and ride a bike without training wheels." "That's amazing, baby," Lisa said, fresh tears starting to flow. Mike watched this interaction with mixed emotions. Part of him wanted to protect Alex from any more pain or confusion. But another part of him could see how much Alex needed this moment with his mother, even under these terrible circumstances. "Lisa, you need to tell us what happened," Mike said when their drinks arrived. "Alex deserves to understand why you left." Lisa wrapped her hands around the warm coffee cup and took a shaky breath. "After Alex was born, I started having really bad thoughts. Dark thoughts that scared me. I felt like I was drowning all the time, but I didn't know how to ask for help." Alex listened quietly, not fully understanding but sensing the sadness in his mother's voice. "I started drinking to make the thoughts go away," Lisa continued. "Just a little at first, then more and more. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. The guilt of being a bad mother made everything worse." Mike felt a knot forming in his stomach. He had noticed that Lisa seemed sad and distant after Alex was born, but he thought it was normal tiredness from having a new baby. "I was afraid I would hurt Alex or you by staying. The thoughts in my head were so scary, Mike. I thought you would both be better off without me," Lisa said, her voice breaking. "So you just left?" Mike asked, trying to keep judgment out of his voice. "I thought I would get help and come back. I thought it would only be for a few weeks," Lisa explained. "But everything went wrong. I lost my job because of the drinking. Then I lost the apartment I was renting. I ended up on the streets, and after that, everything just got worse and worse." Alex reached across the table and touched his mother's scarred hand. "Did it hurt to live outside?" Lisa looked at her son with such love and pain that Mike had to look away. "Yes, baby. It hurt a lot. But not as much as missing you and Daddy hurt. Why didn't you call us? Why didn't you ask for help?" Mike asked. "I was ashamed," Lisa admitted. "I was dirty and sick and addicted to alcohol. I thought you had moved on and built a better life without me. I didn't want to mess that up." Mike felt torn between anger and sympathy. He understood that Lisa had been sick, but she had still chosen to leave them. She had chosen to stay away for 3 years without any contact. "Have you been living on the streets this whole time?" Mike asked. "Not the whole time. I was in different shelters, sometimes treatment programs, but I kept failing. I would get clean for a few weeks or months, then something would go wrong and I would start drinking again," Lisa explained. "What about now? Are you drinking now?" Mike asked directly. Lisa shook her head. "I've been sober for 8 months. This time feels different. I finally found a program that really helps, and I have a social worker named Mrs. Rodriguez who checks on me every week." Alex had been listening to everything with the serious expression he got when adults talked about important things. "Mommy, are you going to come home now?" The question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Mike felt his protective instincts surge again. He couldn't let Alex get his hopes up if Lisa wasn't ready to be a stable parent. "Baby, it's not that simple," Lisa said gently. "I need to keep working on getting better. And Daddy needs time to think about whether he can trust me again." Mike appreciated that Lisa wasn't making promises she couldn't keep. But he could see the disappointment in Alex's eyes, and it broke his heart. "Where are you living now?" Mike asked. "There's a transitional housing program downtown. I have a small room, and I'm working part-time at a restaurant. It's not much, but it's better than the streets," Lisa explained. That's good, Mike said, though he wasn't sure what else to say. They sat in silence for a few minutes, each lost in their own thoughts. Alex finished his hot chocolate and looked back and forth between his parents like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Dad, can Mommy come see our house?" Alex asked suddenly. Mike felt panic rise in his chest. He wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready to let Lisa back into their safe, stable life. What if she disappeared again? What if she started drinking again? What if Alex got hurt? "Alex, that's a big decision. We need to think about it carefully," Mike said. "I understand," Lisa said quickly. "Mike, I don't expect anything from you. I know I hurt you both terribly. I just want you to know that I never stopped loving you. If you loved us, you wouldn't have left," Mike said, his anger finally showing. "You're right," Lisa admitted. "I made terrible choices. I was sick, but that's not an excuse for abandoning my family. I understand if you can never forgive me." Alex looked confused and upset by the tension between his parents. "Why are you both sad?" "We found each other again. Isn't that good?" Mike realized that Alex was too young to understand the complicated emotions adults felt about trust and forgiveness and second chances. To Alex, finding his mother was simply a good thing. "Alex, it is good that we found Mommy," Mike said carefully. "But grown-up relationships are complicated. When someone leaves, it takes time to rebuild trust." "What's trust?" Alex asked. "Trust is when you believe someone will keep their promises and not hurt you," Mike explained. Alex thought about this seriously. "So Mommy broke trust when she left?" "Yes, she did," Mike said. Alex looked at Lisa. "Are you sorry, Mommy?" "More sorry than you can ever know, baby," Lisa said, crying again. "Then maybe we can fix the trust," Alex said with the simple wisdom of a child. Mike felt his heart squeeze. His 7-year-old son was showing more compassion and forgiveness than he was. But Mike also knew that he had to protect Alex from more heartbreak. "Lisa, if you want to be part of Alex's life again, there would have to be rules," Mike said slowly. "And conditions." Lisa nodded eagerly. "Anything. I'll do anything. You would have to prove that you're really sober this time. You would have to keep going to your treatment program. And visits would have to be supervised at first," Mike explained. "I understand completely," Lisa said. "I know I have to earn back your trust. And if you disappear again or start drinking again, that's it. No more chances," Mike said firmly. "I promise, Mike. I won't let you down again," Lisa said. Mike looked at Alex, who was watching this conversation with hopeful eyes. He thought about the drawing Alex had made at school, the picture of just the two of them, happy together. But maybe Alex deserved the chance to have his mother back in his life, even if it was risky. "We'll start small," Mike decided. "Maybe dinner once a week, with me there. We'll see how it goes." Alex's face lit up with joy. "Really, Dad? Mommy can have dinner with us?" "If she keeps her promises, yes," Mike said. Lisa reached across the table and squeezed Mike's hand. "Thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it." "You're right, you don't," Mike said honestly. "But Alex deserves the chance to know his mother, if you can be the mother he needs." They made plans for Lisa to meet them at the same coffee shop the following Friday. Mike would pick her up there, and they would go to dinner together. It was a small step, but it was a beginning. As they prepared to leave, Alex hugged his mother for the first time in 3 years. Lisa held him tightly, crying into his hair. "I missed you so much, baby." "Every single day," she whispered. "I missed you too, Mommy." "I'm glad we found you," Alex said. Mike watched this reunion with a mixture of hope and fear. He was taking a huge risk by letting Lisa back into their lives. But looking at Alex's happy face, he knew he was making the right choice. Sometimes love meant taking difficult chances on healing, even when the outcome was uncertain. As they walked home together, Alex between his parents, Mike realized that their small family might have a chance to become whole again. It wouldn't be easy, and there would be many challenges ahead. But for the first time in 3 years, there was hope.